It's the final shawl. Hey folks, it's Mary, aka MercyTriumphs, and this is Slow Crochet, and today I want to talk about the fifth and final shawl in my top 5 shawls of Ravelry video series. And if you're interested in the series, I do have a whole playlist on it, but this is just basically where I make the shawl and I'm sharing my thoughts as well as kind of ranking it against some of the other top shawls that I have been making in the year of 2026. So this shawl is the Lost in Time shawl by Joanna Lindahl. She also designed the shawl Secret Paths, which was the 4th of the 5. And so that video, well, it's in the playlist, so that's going to be linked below. As well as the patterns that I mentioned, they're all listed in the video description if you're interested. All these patterns are free. This one I had printed out a while ago. I had fully intended to do it, and I just dragged my feet for a while. It was such a learning experience for me, however, and I'm really glad that I did end up making it. Now, I did not have just one solid color. I decided to go with some yarn that I had that I wasn't sure that I really had a better use for, and that is this kind of Willow DK weight. I think it's Willow Daily by Hirschner's. I got a mystery bag of it with all these colors in it. So I can't tell you the names of the colors, I'd lost the ball bands, but it starts in this kind of bubblegum pink, goes into a limey green, and then a beautiful Caribbean aqua, and then finally a kind of almost royal blue, that kind of bluish purple there at the edge. This shawl is a proper right triangle shawl, and knowing I wasn't going to try to modify it and make it wider, I decided to go with colors that I normally wouldn't wear because I thought this is a great time to make a shawl, to use something from my stash, just knowing that it probably won't go into my standard rotation. Now, this design, I think, is beautiful. I think it's very effective. I think it has a really nice rhythm to it, and even the fact that I changed into different colors at different times kind of highlights different parts of the design. Like, I really like this series of rows right here, where I added the Caribbean blue onto the lime, and it really made those bobble stitches pop. Now, speaking of bobble stitches, that is one of the modifications that I did. Whenever something calls for popcorns, I will do bobbles. If it calls for puffs, I'll probably still do bobbles. That is my favorite of those kind of stitches, and that's just a substitution that I do pretty standardly. Also, when it calls for maybe 3 chains to sub for a double crochet, I've started doing a stacked single crochet, but that's really the only thing that I do. I don't know that I did that. Full disclosure, it's been about a month since I had this completed, or maybe a couple of weeks. Maybe a month is too long, but anyway, it's been a little bit of time, so I can't remember exactly what I did. And anyhow, it wasn't big enough to really affect the design. I feel like those small modifications really maintained the honesty and the integrity of the design, unlike what would have happened if I had done my trick to take a right triangle shawl and turn it into more of an obtuse triangle. So I did keep it that right triangle. Things that I learned in making this shawl, I definitely learned some of my preferences, and I do want to point out some of them. Now, number one, there are this grid pattern section that repeats a couple of times. That consists not only of double crochets, but also there's rows of single crochets in there. So that's something that I think I'm going to look out for in the future. Also, lots of bobbles and these lovely fan designs that consist of front post and then back post, depending on what side, the right side or the wrong side that you're working on. That happened quite frequently throughout this shawl. I do want to say, since making this shawl, I have been looking at other shawls on Ravelry. In fact, I've been going through and finding a whole lot of interesting new patterns that I want to try. But one of the deciding factors is, do they have some of these not really my favorite design elements in them, and how can I mitigate that? So there are so many free patterns available. There is, I think, page after page after page. I think there was over 100 pages, maybe up to 120 or 140 pages of free shawls that I found, and any of them that had these design elements, I just went right on over. So my thoughts on making this. Well, number one, I am glad that I went with the DK weight yarn. I think I used a 5.5 millimeter hook on it. It is beautiful. It stretched out really nicely in the blocking process, so I love that. Will I make this one again? Nope. No, I will not. This one is not my cup of tea, as beautiful as it is, but it's a one and done for me. Now, I do want to kind of take a minute and reflect on this entire process because I actually do have the other shawls here that I've made. I think that this one, number one, absolutely gorgeous. It's a great shawl if you want to kind of vary your stitches from row to row. It's not going to be the same, but you're not necessarily going to be able to memorize the pattern either. So it does take a bit more attention than, say, the Elise shawl, for example. So speaking of, let me just give you that overview again, like how would I rank these shawls? So the shawls that I did were the Elise shawl, the South Bay shawlette, which these two were quite similar. Then there was the virus shawl, and finally Secret Paths, and then this fifth one, Lost in Time. So out of these, have I worn any of them since making them? I will say I have worn my virus shawl several times. It's a great one to have on hand. Number one, the colors are really great. So it goes well with like a white dress or something a bit more neutral. I have carried this to church with me and thrown it on when the air conditioning gets too cold. I think it's something that I will get a lot of use out of in terms of just my personal preference. And in terms of making it, maybe not my favorite, but I'll get to that here in a minute. So just the ones that I've worn, I've definitely worn the virus shawl. I have also worn the Elise shawl. I'm going to keep this one in particular because it has that special brooch with it and that beautiful gifted yarn from a local dyer in Knaresborough, England. And then the South Bay shawlette, this one I have worn a couple of times too. Again, it's those lighter colors. However, it is so similar to this one that I'm not sure it's necessarily going to stay with me. The two shawls by Joanna Lindahl, I know I'm not going to keep these. I knew it from looking at the pattern, and it's also patterns that I don't think I'll do again. That's why I went with colors that are a lot warmer, colors that were in my stash because of mystery bags. So again, really glad that I had the experience of making them, but I learned more about what I don't like than what I do in making these. So these will definitely find a good home. I think my husband's going to help me with that endeavor in the future. But yeah, these two I'm definitely not going to keep because I don't see myself wearing them. Now in terms of making the shawls, which one was my favorite? Okay, I'm going to go with the South Bay shawlette. I think this one was my favorite to make because it did not have that extra treble crochet in the middle of the shells. So my favorite to make here, number one. Number two, I'll say the Elise shawl. Number three will be the virus. And then I guess, honestly, I think I like the variation of the Lost in Time more so than Secret Paths. I think Secret Paths, because you had long lines of very similar stitches versus on Lost in Time, you had some variation here with where things were placed. I think this kept it a little bit more interesting. So I preferred this one to the long lines of puff stitches, the long lines of post stitches. But again, very beautiful and effective designs there. Like I said, I don't really see myself making any of these again, but it really was a wonderful experience. I'm really thankful that I went through it. And now, as of right now, I've already started another shawl. It's one that I made before. It is the Small Talk shawl by Sherry McEwen. I'm loving that one. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to feature that on the channel or not. But yes, it has definitely gotten me in this rhythm of always having a shawl on the hook, and I've really loved that about this process. I feel like I've learned a lot. I've pressed myself, and now I'm like, oh, I know myself better. I know what I'm going to move towards. So that is it for my top 5 shawls of Ravelry. I know this has been kind of a quicker video, kind of a quicker just drive-by in terms of getting the information out there, but I did want to take a moment to share with y'all because this has been such a joyful thing for me to do. I'm really glad that I've gotten to share this process with you. And on that note, if you don't see a lot of me in the near future, just know that my life continues to be really big outside of this world, and I don't necessarily have the bandwidth to make a lot of videos right now. So the channel is not going anywhere. I just don't know that I'll be posting as frequently hereafter. So all that to say, thank you so much for all of your encouragement and all of your support. Thank you for the ways that you've helped this channel grow, that you've really made my day. I've loved interacting with y'all in the comments. I've loved getting to know a lot of y'all. I do want to know, are any of these shawls new for you? Are any of them some of your favorites that you go to? And are there any shawls that you would recommend me doing? I have been looking at some shawls by Fiber Spider. There's definitely the Ophelia Talks, the reading shawl that everyone, it seems like a lot of people anyway, have recommended that one. There's a whole bunch out there that I can't wait to try. And the only thing is, I am slow crochet, so it just does take me some time. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Thank you again for spending some time with me. And if for whatever reason I'm not your cup of tea, thank you for listening this long. I do appreciate you, and I do hope I'll see you again soon. Bye.